Hello, everyone. Welcome to ARunninThought podcast. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So, I was on the Nextdoor app on Friday, or no, Saturday. Friday got away from me. I was going to record this on Saturday, but like I say, was on Nextdoor and I noticed somebody had posted that they had a bee swarm in their yard. And so I made a comment that I could come and get this bee swarm out of their yard if they wanted. And I didn't expect to hear anything back, but I'd say like no more than 20, 30 minutes later, I got a reply. And they definitely wanted me to come get them. They were concerned that I was going to kill them, but of course I'm not. I've got empty hives in my yard that I need to split my own bees into or catch swarms and try to migrate them into those hives. So I was fortunate to be able to go down and grab them and actually put them in one of my top bar hives in the yard. And so that was pretty cool, but I did not get to record this. So here I am today. I'm a little bit tired. Yesterday, I was working on my wife's car all day. She had control arms, sway links, and strut assemblies that I guess had gone bad, and she got quoted like I don't know $3,000 or $4,000 to replace all this stuff, and it was something that I could easily do in a day's time, and I don't really have much else to do right now anyway. So I worked on that, and it did take me a good whole day, but it's nice to go out and wrench on uh, cars and stuff. At least for me, it is. I did have an issue with the lug nuts. When you're working on vehicles, you always have, the plan A, which is I'm going to go in and, replace these particular components, or I'm going to fix, this. But there's always, something that comes up that makes you have to go to plan B. You have to fix one thing before you can fix the others. And so for me yesterday, it was the lug nuts, all the lug studs except for one on her driver's side wheel was either warped, sheared, or the stud was loose and not seated. So it just spun freely with the nut on one of them. So I had a little bit of a time trying to get the wheel off, but I eventually did, and I was able to get in and replace all the bad studs and the lug nuts, and got that all squared away. But yeah, so that's two nice wins back to back. Unfortunate news, I got an email today. One of the musical guests that I was hoping to have on and talk story with, they unfortunately had to cancel at this time. So I'm hoping I've still got one guest pending. And if you want to be a guest, you can. You just need to reach out to me at ARunninThought.com. There is a be a guest form there, and you can fill that out, and I'll get back to you shortly. Okay, so moving on. The place that I picked the bees up from, it's in an area of Hawaii Island that I used to go to quite a bit. I've probably been down in that area at least 300, 400 times. I used to go down there and run quite a bit because it's about 20, 30 minutes away from where I live. And I would always go down and park in the same place until one day I came back from about a 2-hour run and my truck had been shot out. The windows, the doors, everything all shot up. And whoever did it, they took, some stuff, mostly inconsequential, like, low value things, but they took my cell phone and I think they took my wallet. Of course, I turned off all the cars and turned off the phone, bricked it. But it was at a point in time where I think I was like in between jobs. So it was a bummer to have to replace all that stuff. At any rate, that was about the time that I quit going down there so often, which is a shame because it's a beautiful part of the island. And I know that the majority, just based off my experience, like 400 times and then one time something crazy happens. I would always see, interesting people down there, but at the same time, the predominantly it was just normal folks like you would see anywhere around the island. So this is not to bang on, this area at all. So please don't take that away from what I'm saying. But I figured it was best for me at that time to kind of stay away. I literally couldn't afford to be down there doing that. It cost me more to fix my truck than all the than all the stuff that they took from it together. So at any rate, I mentioned all that because I was reminded of going through. I've been having like a nostalgia party, I guess, for like the last couple of weeks. I've been going through photo albums and my OneDrive too. I do that often actually. I'll just click through like old uh, photos that are in there, and I came across an image that I had taken in the same general area, and it was of a missing person sign. And if I've seen one of these missing person signs nailed to a tree or a phone pole, I've seen 100 of them at least. About every week or 2 weeks, I would see a new one for a new person in this area. So I don't know if it is that they're from that area necessarily, or if this was just like an outreach effort for, they're casting the widest net possible, or what. But I asked one of the police at where my truck got broken into what he thought happened to these people, what was going on, why all the signs all the time. And his explanation to me, with sort of the implication that he knew sort of what had happened, but wasn't at liberty to say. But his explanation to me was, people get involved with bad things and bad people. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but yeah. So I'm going through OneDrive. I see that image of the missing person, right? And I'm remembering what the cop said to me, and I'm thinking like, I wonder if they ever found this person. So I'm intentionally not saying the name because it's a small community. I don't want to like bring any danger to myself. And then also I don't want to bring up like old feelings for the family or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm thinking going through the OneDrive and seeing this again, like I wonder what happened to this person. Like, did they find them? So I go on that search. I've come across like the homicides, unsolved homicides page for HPD, and the person's still on there, still unsolved, and there's just there's more people on there, and that's not totally surprising, but at the same time, it kind of made me think, like how much does this happen, and how much of it goes unreported, and these kind of things. So I'm bringing this up not for entertainment purposes, but more as a community issue. So I don't think that necessarily that, like I say, the area is bad or the people are bad, but there's definitely like a criminal element that at least at one time was moving through it. And so people tend to stick to themselves here, or they may be afraid to reach out and give information if they know information. But there, these kind of things happen in Waipio Valley and Puna and Kona, everywhere. And also, we're not an anomaly. These things happen all around the world, including mainland. And actually, Hawaii is a little bit statistically better in regard to like violent crimes and homicides than mainland. We're a little bit worse in property crime, but as far as like clearance rates, even though a lot of stuff goes unsolved here, like I think 57% of the violent crimes in Hawaii are like unsolved. That's actually 5 percentage points better than mainland, but there's a lot of them that do go unresolved. So there's also a lot of them because they're not reported, they're underreported. The Attorney General says that offenses known to police are underestimation, the total number of crimes committed, and that there's not a truly reliable measure of crimes. It's difficult, if not impossible, to obtain that. But if you do have information, you can reach out to the Hawaiʻi Police Department non-emergency line at 808-935-3311, Crime Stoppers Anonymous Tips at 808-961-8300, Unsolved Homicides Division 808-961-2380, or you can email unsolvedhomicides@hawaiicounty.gov. For missing persons, you can contact the Area 1 Criminal Investigation Section for Puna or Hilo, and then Area 2 for Kona. It's a weighty thing. Sorry to be a bummer, but it was on my mind, so I just thought I would bring it up. Like I said, hoping to have guests on here in the near future. Bummer about the one, but life goes on. Something a little bit lighter, the reality of island living. I wanted to talk about yard work. It seems that no matter what you do here, or how much work you put in, you're always going to have more yard work to do. Last week, I spent clearing albizia and African tulip trees out of the yard. I cleaned around the water catchment tank. There were vines and all kinds of crap growing around that thing. Pressure washed. We get like algae that grows on the sidewalks here, even because it rains so often. So I spent a lot of time cleaning all that stuff up. Basically, to do yard work here, you have to have, at least where I live, a 50cc weed trimmer with a blade, a sawzall, a chainsaw, and I've got a 14 horsepower wood chipper that'll handle almost a 6-inch diameter piece of wood. And I have to do clearing in our yard basically every single year. Albizia and African tulip trees can grow pretty fast. I think albizia can grow about 20 feet per year. So as soon as you see them, you gotta cut them down and poison them. So I've been spending time in the yard. Again, we were talking about things to be thankful for. Even though it's a lot of work, it was actually something to take my mind off of just everything else that is going on in the world and then personally right now. So that was pretty good. One thing I wanted to bring up too, this is maybe like business advice, but also it could be like personal advice too. In dealing with the public, which I do through digital marketing stuff, and then also through just selling beehives, I find it happens a little bit more on the beehive end. You always are going to have questions that come up in the course of like marketing and sales. I was talking to a client, and this client is also, they're in sales and marketing for their own project, their own product. And they kind of gave me some levity and a little bit of like counterpoints, because I was grumbling that somebody was asking a bunch of questions about the beehives that I sell. And so a lot of times, I'll front load information onto the website, or put like very good descriptions and measurements and stuff in a place where it is conspicuous and people can find it. And it's a little bit agitating for me, like when I get asked the same questions, but like, what are the measurements? The measurements are on the website. What does it look like? There's pictures on the website. What kind of finish should I use on this? There's actually a whole section on the website, and then there's like 100-page document that tells you how to take care of the beehive, or actually build your own. I've got those instructions on the website too, but people are just going to ask. People don't read. So there's a lot of it. I'm not going to go into it to say more than that, but I got some, like a counterpoint that I needed, to take in. And it was that, in sales and in marketing, you kind of have to be able to discern who is, truly interested. And a lot of times questions don't just come from a place of trying to waste your time. They're actually legitimate questions, and people just want to know more before they pull the trigger, especially in a place like this where trust is kind of a major factor in like who you choose to relate with or who you choose to do business with. And so that made sense to me. That resonated with me, and I kind of like cooled off a little bit because I was a little bit upset that I was getting like all these questions. And this typically will happen for me in my experience. The more questions somebody asks about it, or the more like things they ask you to do or throw in on something, usually that translates to like somebody that you're just wasting your time on. So I wanted to talk about that, learning the difference between um, someone who's curious and then someone who is just out to waste your time. So my advice, empathy first, right? And I had to kind of take my own medicine here. So nobody knows everything. And you have to remember you are the expert probably on whatever it is you're trying to get across or sell or market. People out there don't necessarily know everything that you know. Like I don't know how to fix a transmission. I can change the fluid in one, but I definitely couldn't fix it. And so a mechanic, an ASE certified mechanic may have a little bit of difficulty explaining things to me and may get frustrated as well. So I have to think of it in those kind of terms. Data doesn't replace conversation. So like I was saying, I can put like every detail of everything, like hive dimensions, prices, the process, but people are still going to call because they want to hear it from a person, and they don't want to be sold to by a robot per se. But sort of an easy litmus test that you can use is the 5-minute rule. If someone asks a question that takes less than 5 minutes to answer, then just answer it. If it's going to be like a 30-minute deep dive, which I've had both scenarios, schedule a paid consult, or figure something else out, right? Boundaries are sort of a kindness to yourself and also to them. It may be that they need more help than you actually can give them. So you can kind of use that test, like the 5-minute rule, to gauge what your reaction should be. Like I say, like here, local context, word of mouth is everything. So if you treat one person well, even if they've never worked with you before, they may tell other people, and that kind of travels around, and you don't want to burn your bridges with somebody that you don't even know. You just give them time, empathy, and hear them out. Okay, so enough about that. The memory lane, like I was talking about earlier, I've been going through photo albums, and this all sort of like ties in together. Like I'm not just bringing this up for no reason, but I've been going through my albums. So, like toddler photos, high school, old friends, family, Navy photos, just thinking of old memories like boot camp, training at Great Lakes Naval Training Center, Lake Michigan. I've got a lot of memories in that area. So having those 35 millimeter photos, like in albums, it's a different experience than what I'm able to curate now with OneDrive and other online repositories where there's just like tons of photos and digital images. It was a different experience back then when you would like you wouldn't even be sure what you actually took a photo of, but whatever you got out of it was it was precious, more or less, because that's the only memory you had in some cases of these points in time. So, it was cool to go back and see like an old version of myself, and then like old friends and acquaintances in these photos, family, and kind of remember some things that I had long since forgotten. It's easy to get focused on what surrounds us currently, and then I would tend to agree that we sort of need to live in the present, and then like the future is not here yet and the past is gone. So you can't focus on either one of those too much. Live in the present, definitely, but it is cool to remember these old moments and see those things. That does lead into the next part, though. So, in looking at these old photos, like I said, a lot of military stuff in there, obviously, and I'm thinking of current events, um, and I'm thinking back to those times and some of the things that I was learning as I was going through military training, and then being exposed to different places around the world and different cultures, and even different ways of living within our own country. So let's talk about um, service and sacrifice and who gets to be an American. So this was kind of a thing that that surprised me even at first. Um, those photos from when I was in the Navy, it got me thinking about people that I served alongside with, and so I met sailors from every corner of the country. So Chicago, Atlanta, Mississippi, you know, uh, California, all over. But there were also people from different countries entirely that were serving, and they weren't citizens, right? They were serving in our military, but they weren't citizens. These were enlisted personnel that were hoping maybe that their service would earn them a place here, but it was never guaranteed for them. And so that was a surprise to me. I never thought that it could work that way, or I'd never even contemplated that scenario. If you're here, I kind of, the concept of an alien or a resident or a citizen never really crossed my mind. I mean, of course, I'm aware that there's U.S. citizens and then there's people from other countries, but I never realized that somebody that was not even a citizen here, that didn't share like all the same, um, I guess, rights and privileges that I had, would be serving alongside me. And so um, I was surprised by that. And I think there's probably more people like me that don't understand uh, the that is a component of our society. Like there's people here that are are doing the most that they can do, that aren't guaranteed all of the the same rights and privileges that we have as citizens. So in addition to these servicemen and women, um, I also met people from around the world. So I've met officers and enlisted from Russia and South Korea. And again, I've served with immigrants from Mexico, El Salvador, the Philippines, China, Korea, Haiti. And some of them had green cards, some of them were waiting. They weren't citizens, but they were still willing to literally die for this country. And so a lot of them maybe did get their citizenship. I don't know. But over 760,000 non citizens have become citizens that way since 2001. But there's never a guarantee. So there's just a promise that if you serve honorably, which, it sounds like something that's easy to do, but it can be harder than you imagine to get that distinction. But if you serve honorably, then maybe you'll get a shot. With the things that are going on now with ICE raids and deportation talks, I think that we don't need to be so quick to forget who actually fights for this nation and who actually helps to support us day after day. So that's what I'll say about that. I did want to talk about this too, and this kind of ties in. just talking about a couple of distinguished honors within the military, and I'm picking these two out because they are they are kind of similar awards no matter what branch of service you are in, and most people will identify or be able to have some vague idea of what these are. So the first award is the Medal of Honor. So the Medal of Honor is an award that the president gives in the name of Congress to someone who distinguishes themselves conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity, risking their life above and beyond the call of duty during combat against an enemy of the United States. So this isn't just for doing your job, which in a lot of cases is more heroic than the average person will ever be. It's for doing something so extraordinary that no one could reasonably expect it. So a lot of these are awarded posthumously, so after the person has died. And this isn't something that's new. We've always asked the most vulnerable to serve while giving the least protection. So I'll give you some numbers to think about. And what I'm talking about is the numbers of Medal of Honor recipients by ethnicity. So these are all just based on the best information I could gather. No two sources are exactly the same. There's a little bit different criteria for the way that some organizations count a little bit differently. So I was going to give you the reason for that. So when you see different numbers, it's usually about when the count was made and whether it includes belated awards or awards that were made later. So let me just run down through some numbers. So these are Medal of Honor recipients. Hispanic and Latino, there's 60 to 61 roundabout. That includes 17 awarded in 2014 after review for discrimination. So the first was Joseph de Castro from the Civil War, 1863, and most recently Leroy Petrie for Afghanistan. African Americans, 97. That's as of January 2025. So there's definitely over 90 per the National Museum. This includes 7 belatedly awarded in 1997 for World War II service. The first was William Carney in the Civil War. Asian American Pacific Islander. There's 33, AAPI total. So 22 Asian Americans. This includes 22 Japanese Americans belatedly awarded in 2000 for WW2 discrimination. The first was, The first was Telesforo Trinidad, Navy, 1915. So Native American, 28 to 29 recipients. There's 28 per the official list. That includes code talkers and tribal scouts from Indian Wars to Vietnam. Jewish Americans, 18 plus estimated. So part of a 2014 review, the exact count varies by source. So those are just Medal of Honor recipients, and those are, estimated numbers and just a little bit of historical context, just something to think about. So moving on to Purple Heart. And so, let's see. All right, so I'm going to read this. This is coming from the WWR fact sheet, Purple Heart. The Purple Heart is a distinguished military decoration awarded in the name of the President to those who have been wounded or killed while serving in the U.S. Armed Services. Eligibility for a Purple Heart applies to service members who suffered a wound as a direct or indirect result of enemy action, and the wound required treatment by a medical officer at the time of injury. And so that's kind of a basic definition, but here's a list by ethnic group. So African American Purple Heart recipients, estimated over 100,000. So at least 1 million served in World War II alone. Thousands were wounded in Korea, Vietnam, and the global war on terrorism. Notable was Colin Powell, Quinzel Hayes, 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam. Hispanic Latino, 50,000 plus estimated. Hundreds of thousands served proportionally high casualties in Vietnam and Korea. No official segregated count exists. Native American, 10,000 estimated, 10,000 plus. Pascal Pulau, Kiowa, earned 3 Purple Hearts across World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Woodrow Keeble, Sioux, earned 4. Asian American Pacific Islander, 20,000 plus estimated. Thousands served, especially in World War II, Japanese American units, and Vietnam. This includes Filipino American in World War II and Korean War. White and Caucasian, 850,000 estimated. A majority of recipients' total Purple Hearts since 1932 exceeded 1 million. So again, the military didn't track race for Purple Hearts historically. The data has come from modern demographic studies and individual records. So the VA Defense Department has the count at over 1 million since 1932, but they don't break down by ethnicity for public release. So these are all estimates. Of course, there is some injustice in these awards. For example, John Henry Turpin, who survived the USS Maine explosion in 1898 and the USS Bennington boiler explosion in 1905. He swam 15 men to shore at one time. He was one of the first African-American chief petty officers, but he never got the Medal of Honor because back then black sailors didn't get medals of honor. They would get a pat on the back and returned to duty. Mitchell Red Cloud Jr. was a Winnebago Indian from Wisconsin. In Korea, he was shot 8 times. So 8 times he was shot, but he kept fighting, propping himself up against a tree to stay upright and warning his unit until he died. He got the Medal of Honor, but only after a 30-year fight by his family to get it upgraded from a Silver Star. So these men and thousands like them served in a country that didn't always serve them back. They were interred. You can look up Japanese internment camps and German internment camps as well. Enslaved, segregated, and they still stood up. So when I hear people talk about who belongs in America, I think about those photos in my photo album, and I think about the fact that some of the best Americans that I ever met weren't even citizens at all. So, you know, the photo, sorry, I'm going to wrap this up. The photo that I found about the missing person, I'm not going to stop thinking about it. I'm also not going to let it be the only story that I tell. Some of those roads where I saw that sign or ones where I've seen the best scenery and I've met interesting people. And so that's kind of the deal with living here. It's all mixed together. I gave the information on what to do if you know about any open cases. If you want to suggest a musical guest or if you want to be a guest, then of course hit me up at ARunninThought.com. If you're a veteran, especially one who's served without citizenship, thank you. Your story matters. And to everyone else, to everyone really, just these are not the only points to think about, but these are just, points that kind of came up for me. I know that there's a lot of people that don't think this way, but if you're thinking that about the others and how to exclude all the others, maybe, open your eyes a little bit and read about history and learn about these other people that have helped to make our country and our nation what it is. And, stop trying to kick everybody out. And, I think most people don't want ICE in their neighborhoods, at least ICE the way that it is now. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people want that. So one thing I wanted to throw out for a future episode, because this did kind of get me thinking, I want to talk about the Ainu people of Japan. And so if you know anything about the Ainu, or you can tell the story about the Ainu better than I could sit here and butcher it, I think people would be interested to hear about that. Please, get in contact with me. I'd love to have you as a guest. If you don't know about the Ainu, of course, I didn't know about the Ainu until I recently discovered it. They are an indigenous people of northern Japan, so Hokkaido, and also parts of what's now Russia. They have their own language, spirituality, and traditions that go back before modern Japanese, that modern Japan existed. And, as is the case with many native groups, they were hit with heavy assimilation policies for over a century. Their language was banned in schools. Traditional hunting and fishing were restricted. It probably sounds familiar because this happens a lot around the world. But yeah, I'm bringing that up for that exact reason. I think that there's a tie-in with things that have happened here, are happening here. And then too, I know we have a large population of Asian Americans and Japanese, American, Japanese, and Asian citizens too. So I think it'll be interesting. So if you know anything about it and you want to be a guest, then please let me know. Yeah. And if you are Ainu, they actually still are around, then even better. I would love to have you on, talk to you. But yeah, so that's, I think that's all I've got for now. I think that's enough. Again, I'm not running much these days, but I'm still moving. So thanks for watching. Now go and clear your yard. I'm going to go, I guess, play my guitar or do something to keep my mind off of things. But yeah, stay safe. And until next time, take care.